one of the most influential pastors in Gwinnett County. You have him right here as your pastor. I want to thank Reverend Washington for your invitation and your tenacity in trying to get me here. I know you have for a few years. Thank you. And I want to recognize all of our special guests and visitors that thought it not robbery to come and be with us here. I know that there are events going on all over Gwinnett and all over Atlanta, and you chose to be here. God bless you for that. There's enough of us to go around. And that's what we need to be, is be about the business of civil rights and equality and trying to make things right. Amen. Now, and again, I'm not going to be long. Like my good friend Jonathan, I have my notes. And I'm going to try to stick with them as best I can. As an ordained deacon, the last thing you want to do with an ordained deacon is to give them a microphone. Because sometimes we just don't know when to put it down. But I'm going to try to honor my word and try to be timely, because this holiday is also your day, and not a day off, but a day on. And as I stand here, I realize where God has brought all of us from. And He's brought us all from a mighty long way, from looking for a house to finally getting an apartment, then finally getting an apartment, then finally being able to afford a house. God has blessed us. Yes. From looking for a job to being in a position where you're doing so well that you can step away from that job and interview for another job. I remember looking for a job for 2 years when I was younger. And God has blessed many of us to where all we have to do is enter something on the computer and a job pops up and comes at us. And we interview and we get that position. Remember needing a car. And now God has blessed us with not only one car, some of us have 2 or 3 cars in our garage. All right. So sometimes we just forget where God has actually brought us from. All right. And before I go on, I was thinking about when I was younger, and the big topic of that time was gas money, because back then we all didn't have a car. We all just kind of piled in and we went. Because to get to where you wanted to go, it wasn't in your town. You had to drive somewhere, to Atlanta or to some other nearby city that was having an event. So everybody piled in. So the big topic was gas money. You don't hear anybody ask, do you have any gas money nowadays? You don't hear that. I remember all of us piling in and getting ready to, and some of you will get this. So we all piled in, we were getting ready to go to, there was some event in a nearby city. So that topic came up, hey, you got some gas money? I said, why are you always asking for gas money? Don't you have any money? Now shut up and drive. See, I said, some of you will get that. Because it wasn't my car. Now, we're here today, and I'm going to keep you just a few minutes. If I go over 15 minutes, somebody wave your hand. Hey, you're over. And I'll receive that in love. But Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was born January 15, 1929, to the proud parents who loved him dearly. Now, young Martin's parents were the Reverend Martin Luther King Sr. and Alberta William King, who both instilled strong values of equality and justice in their son. From a very young age, Martin showed remarkable intelligence and compassion. Even as a child, he was aware of the injustices and the segregation that plagued his beloved city of Atlanta. And my grandfather worked in Atlanta. He was a barber. And he had to get on a bus. It was a Greyhound bus. There was a commuter bus that went back and forth to Atlanta. He had a shop on Auburn Avenue. And he told us that of the times when he cut Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s hair. And that wasn't a big deal then, but to me it's kind of a big deal now. Some of those cuts that he came out when he did those speeches were performed by my grandfather.
Amen. Amen.
So, yeah, that's a big thing. So again, from a young age, he showed remarkable intelligence and compassion. Even as a child, he was aware of the injustices and segregation all around, not only in Atlanta, but all around the world. But he exhibited a profound intellectual ability and a strong sense of justice, undoubtedly influenced by the deep-rooted racism and segregation that surrounded him. As he grew older, these experiences would shape his tireless pursuit of civil rights and his unwavering commitment to the principles of nonviolence. One day, while walking hand in hand with his mother, he noticed signs that labeled public spaces for whites only. He stopped, and when he asked his mother, well, why couldn't they enter? And her response explained the truth of racial discrimination. Now, this incident sparked a fire within Martin's heart, and he understood that all people, regardless of the color of their skin, deserve to be treated with dignity and respect. He promised himself that he would make a difference in the world and fight for a day when segregation and prejudice would be nothing but distant memories. Now, as Martin grew older, he hungered for knowledge, and he soaked up every bit of education that he possibly could. He excelled in his studies and discovered that education was not only an avenue for his personal growth, but a powerful tool for change. His teachers recognized his potential and encouraged him to dream big. Do you dream big? While attending Booker T. Washington High School, Martin sharpened his oratory skills and became involved in various social and civic organizations. And he quickly gained a reputation for being an eloquent and charismatic speaker who possessed a deep wisdom, a wisdom beyond his years. Yet, despite his achievements, Martin still faced the harsh realities of racism and prejudice. He witnessed firsthand the unique, unequal treatment of his African American brethren, then felt a burning desire to address these injustices that plagued his community. With his parents guiding his footsteps, Martin Luther King Jr. grew to become the leader of the civil rights movement. The boy who once questioned segregation signs would go on to deliver his famous "I Have a Dream" speech, becoming the voice of millions who long for justice and equality. Now, Martin's childhood served as the foundation for his unwavering dedication to social justice. His experiences of witnessing discrimination and his unwavering belief in the power of love and unity became the driving force behind his fight for a better world. Do you fight for a better world?
All right.
And so the story of Martin Luther King Jr. teaches us that even in the face of adversity and injustice, a single individual with a dream can ignite a powerful movement and changed the course of history. And oftentimes we get bogged down and we say that I don't matter. My vote doesn't matter. And I hear that a lot in the African American community. But your vote does matter. Your vote helped to elect me.
Amen.
Yes. You know, and as I look further back on that, and it's great to be first. I respect that and I embrace that. As a matter of fact, I was the first maybe second, African American ever elected in this county since Reconstruction, back when I was elected, being first. So, but being first has responsibility, has accountability, because everybody's looking for you to mess up. So they can say, hey, I told you so. So it was a tough job, but hopefully I lived up to your expectations and God's expectations first. But so the story of Dr. Martin Luther King teaches us that even in the face of adversity and injustice, we can make a difference. And today we gather here to commemorate the extraordinary life and the untimely death of one of the greatest visionary leaders in our history, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. This remarkable man left an indelible mark on our society, not only with his remarkable accomplishments, but also with his unwavering commitment to justice, equality, and the eradication of discrimination. King's early years were marked by his remarkable academic achievements. He graduated from Morehouse College at the age of 19. I wasn't really focused on school at the age of 19. Some of you can attest to that. Then he completed his studies at Crozer Theological Seminary. Subsequently, he earned his PhD in systematic theology from Boston University in 1955. And it was during this time in Boston that King became deeply influenced by the teachings of Mahatma Gandhi and his philosophy of nonviolent resistance. Inspired by the teachings of Gandhi and the principles of nonviolent resistance, Martin found his purpose. Have you found your purpose? And it's not too late, wherever you are in life, it's not too late to find your purpose.
That's right.
At 80, 90, even 100.
That's it.
You can still be a blessing to someone. Yes, you can. Find your purpose. And he discovered that through peaceful means he could create change and encourage the world to see the inherent worth and equality of all people. However, it was when King became pastor at Dexter Avenue Baptist Church in Montgomery, Alabama, that he truly embraced his destiny as a leader in the civil rights movement. In December of 1955, he played a crucial role in the Montgomery bus boycott, a protest sparked by our own Rosa Parks' refusal to give up her seat to a white passenger. Now, guided by the principles of nonviolence, King led the boycott, which lasted for over a year and ultimately led to the integration of Montgomery's public transportation. And your transformation, whatever it is, may not simply happen in a year. It may take 5, maybe take 10, whatever it takes. Stick with it.
Amen.
Now, this victory propelled King to the forefront of the civil rights movement, and soon he established the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, the SCLC, to coordinate efforts across the country. His inspirational leadership and captivating speeches garnered national attention. King's iconic address during the 1963 March on Washington, where he delivered his unforgettable "I Have a Dream" speech, solidified his status as a transformational figure in American history. Now, throughout his life, King faced numerous obstacles. Have you faced any obstacles in your life? Including threats to his safety, arrest, and the constant pressure for change in a deeply divided society. However, he stood resolute in his conviction that injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. His nonviolent approach to civil rights activism met through resistance and violence against himself. And it ultimately brought about the crucial legislative victories that he witnessed. But his tireless efforts contributed to the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which outlawed segregation and discrimination based on race, religion, sex, or national origin. Now, for the young people here, I know it seems like ancient history, but for those of us with a few years on us, many of us have seen how much life has changed for African Americans in the past few decades. I can reflect walking in my city, my downtown Norcross, and there was a big school right in the center of Norcross that was called the Castle. At that time, it was a beautiful building. I was walking with my mother, and I said, "Will I go to school there one day?" And I believe I was in the fourth, maybe the third grade. And I asked her, will I go to school there one day? And she said, this is what she said, nothing. She would make a commitment that she never would make a commitment that she could honor. Because we were actually, in Norcross, we were bused to Duluth to go to school. Some of us in Norcross were bused as far as Lawrenceville to go to school. Now, what makes this so amazing is that it really has not been, as I said, that long since Black Americans were legally excluded from so many aspects of life. For instance, we know today that education is an essential part of our progress. But did you know that at one time, even the ability to be taught was illegal? So you ask yourself, what was this reason? Well, why was this a concern? And the answer is simple. And you can write this down. The more you know, the more you grow. Now, the statute that I'm referring to was passed by the North Carolina State House in 1830, and it was fairly typical among all the other southern states. And it read, whereas the teaching of slaves to read and write has a tendency to excite dissatisfaction in their minds and to produce insurrection and rebellion to the manifest injury of the citizens of this state, close quote. Then the prophet Hosea wrote, for my people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge. And yes, knowledge is a key. Even in a more contemporary setting, you see the court case of Brown versus the Board of Education. This should have ended segregation in 1954 and started us down the road to integration. We see the Civil Rights Act of 1957 and the Civil Rights Act of 1960 and the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Civil Rights Act of 1968 and on and on. And you have to ask yourself, why? Why? But allow me to give you what I think is the answer. These laws kept coming to try to combat racism. But you have a small but loud remnant of people that are, the word was hell-bent on finding new ways to subvert these laws. And we have that even today. Unfortunately, there's a majority of people who continue fighting to beat back the injustice, to beat back segregation and discrimination. And yes, the struggle continues today, here in 2024. But the words of Dr. King's "I Have a Dream" speech still reverberates through the hearts and minds when he said, "It is a dream deeply rooted in the American dream, that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths self-evident, that all men are created equal." Now, tragically, on April 4th, 1968, the world was shaken when Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated on the balcony of the Lorraine Motel in Memphis, Tennessee. Now, his untimely death sent shockwaves throughout the nation and the world. Most of you who were alive at that time remember where you were when that happened. I was talking with Reverend Washington about what he remembered during this time. And he said, "You know, man, I cried like a baby. And I cried because my mother was crying." But again, those of us who were alive remember. King's passing left an immeasurable void in the hearts of those who admired him and the millions who had been inspired by his unwavering commitment to justice and eradicating racial discrimination. Now, as I close, while we mourn the extraordinary man who Dr. King was, we must also reflect on the remarkable legacy that he left behind. I look around this room and I see so many brilliant people. I'm looking in front of me and I see the roots inside this building. Yeah. Judges. Amen. God has blessed you. Now, Martin Luther King Jr.'s dream of a society free from racial discrimination and inequality continues to inspire countless individuals around the world. His timeless message of unity, equality, and love transcends boundaries, reminding us that we all have a responsibility to fight for justice and to ensure that his dream becomes a reality. Now, as we honor Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. today, let us not merely remember the man, but continue to uphold the principles that he so passionately fought for. Let us strive to build a society where every person is judged not by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. Let us lift our voices in unison, echoing his dream. And let us never forget that the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice. So thank you for allowing me to share with you this morning, and may we all be guided by the enduring legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Thank you so much for allowing me.